Coming up on this episode of Common Denominator.
There is absolutely no way that you are ever going to get to a point of financial freedom if you do not know what money is coming in and what money is going out. You can't even take the first step to start saving money or to start spending smarter if you haven't done that.
This is Common Denominator, straight-up conversations with Moshe Popak. Relying on critical thinking and open-spirited debate, we invite you to find common ground on everyday issues and encourage you to be bold, to be optimistic, and to take action. To learn more, head to MoshePopak.com, and we'd be so grateful if you'd like, share, and subscribe to the show. Now, here's your host, Moshe Popak.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today, expert tips to save you money and strengthen your portfolio during these tough times. Bethany Hollars is a financial strategist for Brickseek, an app that helps people save a ton of money. She has recession-proof advice to carry us through the next few months and beyond. Hi, Bethany.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome to Common Denominator.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So we're pretty divided as a nation, but I think that one thing that we all can agree on is that things cost a lot of money nowadays. Why do you think inflation is so high right now?
I think right now it's just the time that we're in. Obviously, COVID and the pandemic has had a lot of ripple effects that we're still feeling. I think a lot of it relates back to that. We hear a lot of different reasoning for it, manufacturing delays, shipping delays. There's a lot that goes into it. But the point being is that no matter who you are or where you live, inflation is definitely something that you're dealing with right now. We're finding that in some of the key areas, the things that we just can't escape from, getting gas at the pumps, buying food at the grocery store, our rent, our housing costs, utility costs, energy costs, electricity costs, all those things that we have no choice, the bills that we have to pay. We are seeing inflation anywhere from 5 up to 11%, depending on the area that you're looking at. It is something that's affecting everyone, and regardless of the issue or the cause, we are definitely finding that people are feeling it in their wallets, no matter where they live, no matter what they're buying.
So I know one foundational point that you really advocate for is that people should have intention with their finances. Tell us a little bit about that idea.
So I am a huge proponent of taking charge and taking control of your own financial landscape. That's going to look different for every single person. It can vary based on what your job is, where you live. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But the great thing is, and the thing that I love about it, is that no matter who you are, what your personal situation is, you have so many ways to take back control over your finances. That can look different for a lot of people. But the point is, it is possible for everyone.
So I'll meet people, so two sides of the brain. I'll meet people that are kind of comfortable with the math and kind of their spending, but I really want to try to help practical tools for people that kind of run away from, looking at their monthly expenses. What is a way to start?
It's all about intention. So a big part is just changing your mindset in terms of how you see finances and how you spend your money. And the first part of that, which I'm just always amazed how people are either incredulous that it could be so easy. And I'm always incredulous of how many people have not taken the time to sit down and just create a budget. Even before you figure out where you're going to spend your money, writing down what is coming in and what is going out is something that a majority of people are not doing, and for many people have never done. There is absolutely no way that you are ever going to get to a point of financial freedom if you do not know what money is coming in and what money is going out. You can't even take the first step to start saving money or to start spending smarter if you haven't done that. So the number one step, I always say, you need to start with a budget.
So fine, now we have this budget and we're seeing, okay, we're spending this on gas, this on rent, this on food, and we only have after taxes, we have a salary, we're brought in this amount of money. So now I'm over budget, right? I'm over budget. What can I do practically that'll help me go back down to actually save money and be within my budget and maybe even even save money?
So this is going to look different for each person. The first is going to be your classic wants versus needs. So I always start out and say, first and foremost would be your needs. Let's say your housing. Is there something that could you refinance and possibly, bring your interest rate down so that you're saving a little bit of money that way? When it comes to gas prices, I've got a ton of tips that people ask me how you can save money at the pump. There's a lot of ways to do that. Some of them vary depending on where in the country you live. There's rewards programs and different grocery store loyalty points and things like that. There are ways in all of those needs areas that you can save money. The problem gets to once we start transitioning into the want area, and that's where it's very hard for us to self-deny. And that is a big part when you're getting started, that you are probably going to have to self-deny a lot of the things that you want. And we have to start redefining a want versus a need.
I know you mentioned before about tips for saving money at the pump. I think everybody would love to hear that. So maybe one or two tips.
Sure. So the first I will say, some gas stations are localized. I know in this area over here on the East Coast, one of the gas stations that's very popular is called Wawa. They have their own app. They had a program very recently that if you use the app to pay for your gas, you could save up to 15 cents a gallon. And when gas is like $5 a gallon or more, that makes a big difference. I always suggest look into a Costco membership. They're running deals on their memberships oftentimes, many times during the year. I actually just did a piece for someone that analyzed the cost savings of a Costco membership versus how much money you can save at the pump. Because of course, Costco, many of them have their own gas stations. That is almost always a win-win in terms of saving on gas. Depending if you live in other areas of the country, for example, Kroger has a great loyalty rewards program through their grocery store that allows you to buy certain things and acquire points and then cash them in at the pump for free gas. There are people who I know several personally who kind of have that game down to a T, and they can get entire tanks of gas for free using loyalty rewards programs through their grocery store.
And I think that, especially in today's society, you talk about immediate gratification. I think social media, unfortunately, I love technology, it could be great, but I think social media, you're seeing everybody traveling everywhere, spending all this money, and just going chemically into your mind. You're hearing all this thing, and you're going to have to work double overtime with intention to curb those wants because of all that pressure.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's definitely a part of the conversation that has just become so intertwined now with the talk about saving money, spending money, financial freedom. Is social media. You can't escape it. I think one of the struggles that our current culture has to fight against is the fact that, several decades ago, you might have been able to compare yourself to the Joneses down the road. But other than that, you didn't really know how, people all over the world necessarily were living or had a standard that you were comparing yourself to. I think now, like you said, with the proliferation of social media, it's just constantly in our face, ways of comparing ourselves to others globally, not even just, in our own areas. And that also makes the struggle even harder because when you're seeing people that have some things that you want and they're making it seem like it was so easy to get those things and there was no work involved and things just kind of fall into people's laps, it makes it very hard when that isn't happening to you and you feel like you're the one sitting here struggling and denying yourself in order to get ahead. And it's not necessarily an easy journey. It's a worthwhile journey, but it can make it all the harder when you're comparing yourself to people who make it seem like for them, it just kind of happened.
And by the way, I just want to give a little caveat that it's a lot of what you see on social media is actually not necessarily true. I remember my son was telling me this picture of some social media influencers and they're sitting on a private jet and then you see like step back and it's like a set stage where you can pay for the day, right? And it's like people have to realize that a lot of what you're seeing on social media is actually not accurate. So don't fall into that trap. Like once you start falling into that trap, it's no good.
Absolutely. And all you're doing is sabotaging your own journey to get to that point. You've got to keep in mind for a lot of these people, I always like to say, keep in mind that one of the things that you're not going to be able to change no matter who you are is luck. Some of it for people is just luck. They're either born into money, or they have some kind of something happen that, maybe you're just as talented as the next 18-year-old, but you didn't happen to find TikTok first. And so some people just get lucky and that kind of directs their path. Some of that is something that we can't change. Keep in mind that on social media, a lot of these people are being paid to promote certain things. They're being given things that are very expensive for free, making it seem like, they paid for this $10,000 bag, and that's not necessarily true. Like you said, a lot of it is literally just staged. And keep in mind also, I always like to remind myself as well as others, be very careful of social media. No one's posting their failures. We don't go onto social media and blast it to the world, all of our hardships and our roadblocks and our struggles. We put the good stuff on there. So keep that in mind.
Yes.
I think it can make it somewhat more relatable. But again, do not look at the people who are posting their best lives on social media thinking that that's just going to happen like that for you.
And I want to go to, I think about step one, obviously, is writing down. You have the budget, and it will take, there's like this compounding effect after you've saved for many months or even years. But I always think about, what do you do? The third prong is the investment. So you've saved this money. So money could be sitting in a bank account, right? So money could be sitting in this bank account, and inflation nowadays is over 8%, right?
Yep.
And you're earning less than 1% in the bank. So I just want the audience to understand that if you keep your money sitting for that year, your purchasing power, and a lot of people don't understand that, your purchasing power just went down, you're negative 7%, right?
Exactly.
So then spending your intention, right? I think about spending your intention and your energy about finding investments. I want to just pivot for a second, because I know we all are affected, or we know about credit scores, and why is a credit score so important?
Basically, the powers that be out there when it comes to who's going to decide what the interest rate on your car loan is, or possibly even what percentage you're going to pay for your mortgage interest, or whether or not you're getting approved for that lease at that new rental that you're looking at. Right, wrong, or indifferent, those companies that are making those decisions are looking at your credit score. And basically, the higher your credit score, the less of a risk you are of costing them money. And that can go for a bunch of different things. It can decide whether or not you get approved for a credit card, anything at all, basically, when they say we need to we need to check your credit. That's why that's important. And right or wrong, it is the world that we live in now, and that is how they're making their decisions. It's very important to keep a very close eye on your credit score. I would recommend checking. You get a free credit report from each one of the 3 major credit reporting bureaus one time per year. That is law now and has been for many years. And I always suggest every 4 months, pick one of the credit bureaus and pull up your report and keep an eye on that.
What are maybe 1 or 2 practical tips as how to increase our credit scores?
First and foremost is the most easiest thing, regardless of what kind of credit you have, whether it's your rent, your mortgage, your car loan, a credit card, always pay your bills on time. Do not pay them late, even if you are making the minimum payment. Do not pay your bills late. That is the easiest way, above all, to help keep that score high. You can go into some more of the analytics of it in terms of looking at all of the loans and money that you owe to different companies, and you add that all up, and then they're looking at how much money you bring in and how much money you're paying off, and they're doing ratios in terms of how much debt you have and how much overall credit you have available. And each company is kind of looking at this differently, but again, that all goes into essentially the way that they're looking at you as a prospective customer. This person has $20,000 worth of credit, but they're using $19,000 of it. Why are they using so much of their credit? That's probably going to affect your score and make it go lower. That's why when you notice if you make a big payment on a credit card and it's lowering that balance of debt that you have relative to how much credit you have available, they're probably going to look at that more favorably. It's at the end of the day, has nothing to do about you. It's all about these companies and whether or not they want to work with you. And if they think you're more of a risk, you're going to pay for that in terms of giving them higher interest rates. They're going to cover themselves in that way.
So let's talk about the company you're a part of, Brickseek. It's a pretty cool app. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So I am the content director at Brickseek.com, which is a really awesome website. Of course, I'm going to hype it up. But I hype it up because I was a personal user of Brickseek long before I came to work here. And I have seen the power of what we do affect people in very positive financial ways, to the point that sometimes it just brings me to tears. I'm so happy to be involved in something like that. So Brickseek, I can give a short background of how we came to be. I never knew much about Legos, but our founder was a big Lego lover. And I guess Legos are also called bricks, the little building bricks. And he was looking for Lego sets. So he was seeking Lego bricks. And the reason he was doing that is because he worked your normal corporate job and was not necessarily happy in that role, and had a background in some software development. And he created his own tool to help him find Lego sets. And the reason he did this is because he was doing a side hustle of finding Lego sets in Walmarts and Targets and other stores near him. And then he was turning around, and as a third-party seller on Amazon, he was reselling those Legos and making a profit on them. So essentially what he would do is he would wait until these Lego sets, I learned all about Legos coming to work for Brickseek. They've got all different sets, and some of them they make all the time, but a lot of the sets are limited. And when those sets got discontinued, if you swipe them up and then sit on them for a little bit of time, then it becomes very hard to find those sets because they no longer make them. Mm-hmm. And if you make one of those sets available for sale, you can make money reselling those sets at a higher price. So essentially, he was running around all the time to Walmart and Target and other big retailers like that, looking for these Lego sets that he knew were going to get discontinued so that he could buy them. And then at a later time, when they went up in price, relist them on Amazon and make money. And that was his side hustle. That was the way he was offensively tackling his financial situations. And he created this tool where you can put in the UPC of, at that time, it was Lego sets, as well as his zip code. And it would tell him at the big box retailers near him, whatever, let's say there was a Jurassic Park Lego set. This Walmart 10 miles this way, they have 10 of them and they're $50 each. But this Walmart 10 miles down that way has 10 of the sets, but they've started marking them down and they're $20 each. And it saved him a ton of time, and also just in terms of convenience, that he wouldn't waste the time going to the Walmart 10 miles this direction. He'd go to the one over here and he'd save all that money on the Lego sets and turn around and sell them for a profit.
So Brickseek now does that on many different items, because I think it's,
Yes.
I know that anybody that wants to start in business, Gary Vee is a big fan of, buying cheap. I always say that it's always on the buy. I'm in the real estate business. I always think it's on the buy, and I tell everybody that. And I think it applies to, it's either service or a widget or an item. And if you can get that item super cheap and you could resell it, that is a good way. So you can have your job, and on nights and weekends you can have a side hustle to make more money. And I love that is what Brickseek does. How can people find out more about Brickseek and begin their own kind of side hustle or?
Absolutely. Yeah. So basically, this tool, he made this available many years ago, and we grew completely organically and by word of mouth. People realized the power of the tool that he had created, that it didn't just need to be used for Legos. Maybe you were just you're defensive still in your finances. And maybe that means you're just trying to save money on diapers because you have a new baby at home, and that's a need. You absolutely need to have these diapers. You can use Brickseek to find cheap diapers near you, and that's a way that you're saving money defensively. Once the word got out to the couponing groups and deal hunter groups and clearance finding groups, we really just saw an explosion in people using Brickseek to search all types of things. And then, as you just mentioned, in terms of when it comes to side hustles, one of the big side hustles is called retail arbitrage. It's otherwise known as reselling, which is what he was doing with the Legos, flipping. I actually have my own business. That's what I started using Brickseek for, was my own very successful business doing retail arbitrage. And that's where people are coming in and they're using us offensively to get control of their finances by doing something in terms of flipping, reselling, doing retail arbitrage. So you can basically go in. We have an entire suite of tools. We've grown so much since those beginning days, which basically, and it doesn't matter where in the country you live, because you just put in your zip code and it makes all of your results localized to you. We've also expanded to do things online as well. So we're finding like the best deals online also. But basically you can go in and no matter what the product is, put it in and find out what's located near you, how many of them are there, what the price is. We have all sorts of historical data, which basically show you this is a great deal, this is an all right deal. We've seen these way cheaper in the past. So you're getting a very good picture of just how much of a value you're getting for your dollar. And we have seen people, when I say the testimonials that have come in, we've seen people that have used Brickseek on a small scale to make some, for them, very big changes.
So they should go to brickseek.com.
Absolutely.
So Bethany, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's really been informative and great. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Common Denominator podcast. Join us next week for another inspiring, impactful, and empowering conversation. To learn more about Moshe, head to moshepopak.com. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it. And we'd be grateful if you could rate, review, and subscribe to the show.